Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Development Project. Hey, Tristan.
How you doing, Caden?
I'm good. How are you?
Man. I'm good. We have football today.
Yes.
So NFL started Thursday, but starts today. I love it when all three sports are going on at one time. So we got the NBA, got Major League Baseball still, and obviously football. So
Yeah.
how's things going for you?
Good. No, I just had a wedding yesterday for one of my friends, Kyle. That was a lot of fun. Danced, sang. We got in a group towards the end. It was like me and the rest of the groomsmen and Kyle. We stood in a line and they were playing, what is it? I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith.
That's awesome.
We were belting it. I'm pretty sure I was going to have like no voice for the podcast today, but it turns out we're all good.
That's awesome.
And are you doing fantasy this year?
I'm not.
You're not doing fantasy?
Mm-hmm. So quick story on that. So when fantasy football first started getting like really popular, so it shows my age, me and all my buddies back home, we did it. And I really hope he doesn't listen. Actually, I'm just going to be honest. He knows. One of my friends who knows nothing about football. So if you've ever seen the show The League, his name's Taco. Mm-hmm. Taco's an idiot. He doesn't know anything. He literally goes and drafts 4 kickers. And anyway, one year he actually wins, and it pisses everybody off. That was my first year. I would say one of my friends was very knowledgeable in football, but not only did I play football and was knowledgeable, I was a geek when it comes to statistics and understanding players. Mm-hmm. I'm not a person who only pays attention to my own team. I could tell you everything you want to know about the Colts because I love sports. Anyway, I got last, and this guy got first, and I immediately have never played fantasy since. It's been almost 12 years. I've never played because I couldn't stand the fact that it does have to do with talent, but that's a perfect scenario, like a perfect example of how lucky you can get in fantasy football.
It's like, do you have enough sense to be able to pick the right types of players and put them in the right matchups? But also it's like last year on my fantasy team, there were games where I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Why are you guys not doing well?
Well, and I couldn't stand for the fact that, for example, your team in real life could blow out my team 39-7, but yet, and I could have literally a roster full of people who lost their games in real life, but they all had individually great performances. And you know as well as anybody, I'm a team guy. Like, I don't like individual performances. So I think that's kind of another thing that started to deter me.
Yeah.
All that said, fantasy football, go. I'm glad that you do it. I'm glad people find it fun. And I'm sure if I did it again, I'd probably find a different love for it. But that's the reason I don't do it.
This is my 3rd year in fantasy football. We do one for the class. And so that one has a buy-in. There's some incentive to try to do really well. I got 3rd place last year. The league didn't give me any money, which I thought should have happened, but whatever. And then my brother and I started like a random one with me, him, his girlfriend, and my roommate Ethan's 4 people for a 13-week
Let me see if I got
football.
this one. I'm going to take it from you. So your name for that one is the American 1776ers, right? That's awesome.
Freedom,
I
independence,
love that. Freedom.
The logo is a football helmet with the American flag plastered all over it. So
that's awesome.
I love it.
That's good. What are we talking about today?
Okay, today we are going to talk about misplaced motivation. So basically getting people to move away from viewing their progress as an athlete in unhealthy ways and moving it towards healthy, more attainable types of goals. But before we start that, go ahead and give a message from our sponsor, LRX Apparel. LRX Apparel, what do? They sell challenges in the form of athletic apparel that adapts to your active lifestyle. Every collection has a challenge associated with it. A challenge to stand united, a challenge to build a brighter perspective, or a challenge to actively pursue progress. And they want to invite you to do that with them. So go over to lrxapparel.com and use code LIVEPRESCRIBED to get 15% off of your order. That's LIVEPRESCRIBED for 15% off. Let them know that we sent you. We'd love to have you do that for us. So we're really happy to have them on as a partner. So moving through misplaced motivation. So I think the first thing we should do is talk about what is motivation? How are we going to define motivation? And that'll help set up the talk moving forward. So give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know if I have like a dictionary definition necessarily to give, but to me, as a coach, as an athlete myself, these are things that I regularly have conversations with everyone that I coach, at least from more of a one-on-one perspective. And I think that it is exactly that. If you are defining motivation incorrectly, okay, it's never going to actually work for you. So for me, motivation is something where, you need to really set a goal for yourself. And then almost like the path to get there is the small motivation blocks. Motivation is not waiting somewhere for you. And once you go to it, you'll find it. So for example, people who are quote unquote motivated to go to the gym because of their friends, that's great. That's a goal of yours. Your goal is clearly to have a social group or people that you look forward to seeing, who, you've put in your mind, if I can see them, if I am there with them, that's what's going to help me work out. Mm-hmm. Great. Working out's not your goal. It's not your motivation. Your people are. So if said people are not at the gym, have you lost your motivation? Hypothetically, yes, you have. Okay. You've lost it. So that's kind of how I look at it, is you need to be able to set your goals. And that's the crazy thing about life. Things are constantly changing around us. Obviously 2020, every person can say that, but even outside of 2020, life's always changing. The way you feel, the way your priorities change, your goals need to change with it, because if they don't, your motivation is going to change in a negative way. Yeah. So I don't know what you would like to add on to that, but that's just how I see it.
Yeah. I think that feeds into the misplacement portion of it. If you're placing your motivation in things that aren't self-sustaining, then it's very easy for the motivation to disappear. So for that example specifically, if your motivation lies in people or a specific person or just the feeling you get being in an environment with someone, but you're trying to tie that to the goal of being healthier or getting fitter, you're right. If that person or that thing goes away, then you're left in this sort of just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I don't know how I'm going to continue with the thing that I'm trying. It goes the same thing with food. Like, what's your motivation with food? Are you only doing the specific diet because you're doing it with a friend, or are you doing it because it's going to make you feel better? So we have to find a way to place our motivation in more long-lasting sort of ways so that we can be resilient through all the different stuff that happens. But I think we also need to be realistic with the goals that we have for ourselves as well. And I think finding realistic goals can help you navigate where to get the motivation from. So let's say somebody is a brand new exerciser. They've never exercised before. They've never done sports. They don't have the mindset around all that kind of stuff. They're green as they come. And they walk into the doors of M4G and they're like, I want to start doing CrossFit. What's one of the first questions that you would ask that person?
I want to start CrossFit and they've never done anything in their life. I would first say, like, why is CrossFit the thing that you wanted to do so bad? Mm-hmm. Because clearly something about CrossFit's made you think that you're going to achieve something that you want to achieve. So it's basically unlocking, like, don't just tell me you want to do CrossFit. Why is CrossFit over kickboxing, over just running, over taking some diet pill? Like, what is it about CrossFit that you think you already know or that's going to help you achieve those things? That immediately unlocks goals. That's going to tell you your first goal. Either they're going to tell you, I want to get a pull-up. I want to lose this much weight. I want to look like that person naked. Whatever. I mean, I've heard it all. I have yet to hear a new thing in years that's like, wow, I haven't heard that before. That's great. I want to live into my 80s or my 90s, kicking butt, like I've heard that too. So that's the first thing I say. What is it about CrossFit that you think is going to get you to wherever you want to get to? So unlocking that goal by asking that question.
Okay. So let's say someone comes in and they say they want to do CrossFit. You ask them why, and they say, I don't know, a lot of my friends do it and I heard it's fun. So, tell me more about that. What is that going to help me get my goals? Is it going to help me look better? Like those sorts of, if they're just completely brand new, where do you go from there? How do you dissect and sort of figure out, like, how do we get this person to recognize and state, these are the things that I want to accomplish. This is what I want to get out of CrossFit.
Sure. And this is different for every person. I'm sure you're looking for something specific. I don't know if I have your specific I'm just looking, thing.
Yeah.
It goes back into a history. I mean, I need to know what have you really done before? What's not worked for you, so I can make it work for you. Okay. There's obviously, I think there's probably a blueprint from our business standpoint. That kind of has more to do with our on-ramp and really teaching what CrossFit is. And I don't want to get into that because first of all, we have podcasts on that. But instead of like, reciting things at them about what CrossFit is, it's trying to understand what didn't work for you before. And let's even if we have to customize it a little bit, what's going to get this person in? Have you tried this before, but you didn't have any friends with you? Okay, so if I can get you to meet new people, if I can get you to do this, will that now help you get to the goal that you want to get to? Because again, it's not that any goal is right or wrong. It's the path in which you're trying to take to get there. And that's also what you're saying. It's the misplaced. If you want to lose a bunch of weight, great goal. Okay. Actually not a great goal. I mean, again, it probably should start smaller than that, but then it's the journey that you're going to take to get there. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. And some of them are very, very unhealthy, whether it be mentally, emotionally, or physically. There's a lot of unhealthy ways to lose weight. There's a lot of healthy ways to lose weight. So it's just kind of one of those things where trying to figure out what doesn't work for somebody, because again, there's also that method. There's no real right way. There's tons of ways. And you have to try to we talked about this in our coaches meeting. You have to really get to know your athletes. And someone who's coming off the street and that I've never met, how do we immediately fast forward or get that relationship building? You got to be able to break down walls. That you have to have honesty and authenticity and stuff like that. And in doing this, there is no elevator pitch I can give somebody. I know in some businesses that works, but everybody's different. And we're starting to find that out, like some people have such mental blocks, whether it be depression. We just did this with our community yesterday, suicide. There's so many different things, relationships that you've been in, people telling you you're not worth it. People telling you that you can't do something. Everyone's had that different road. And when they come in, I actually think you're doing a disservice to people if you always approach something the same way. So going back to your question now, if it wasn't said well, that's why, because your question is very difficult for me. I can change something on the fly. It's one of my greatest strengths. Like I can adapt so quickly with any person. That's why I'm so confident that when somebody walks through the door, I don't have to be prepared. I can be zero prepared and zero planned, and I will figure it out in my conversation. Yeah. And that's just something that can't be taught. Yeah. Some people feel that way. You might feel that way about your business. I feel that way about CrossFit. I don't have to plan anything because I love it. I breathe it. I educate myself in random times of the day and the week to where I am always ready. And now you add 7 to 8 years of experience onto that. This sounds so bad. I've heard and seen it all. So again, it's even though I may have heard someone say this before and someone said this, their journeys could still be different, but now I can take what I learned from this person and those two kind of make what's going on with this person or what they're battling. For you, I know it's a little bit different, but with physical therapy, I know it's not CrossFit, but I mean, I would actually ask the same thing for you because there's obviously a goal that you and that person have. I know it's injury related. It's a little bit different from losing weight and stuff like that, but I would actually be interested to hear, because sometimes do you have to have the same type of conversation with your one-on-one patient that maybe I have to have, that maybe it's like, because of this injury, it's because you've had misplaced motivation here.
Yeah. And I think it boils down to, even if you don't know exactly what you're going to say for every single person, having the basic understanding of how to set goals for people to help get them in the right mindset for motivation. So let's take the weight loss one, for example. Someone comes in, they're like, I want to lose a lot of weight. So that's a great goal to have, but having the knowledge in the back of your head, which you have, I think you don't even really realize that you're using these things, but it's working in your brain. Okay, losing weight, that's a big goal. How do we make that attainable? How much weight do you want to lose? What's the time frame that you want to lose that certain amount of weight? We have to boil it down into more attainable, easier to reach sort of goals. So those are the ones that are like the stepping stones to get to the long goal of like, I want to lose a total of 100 pounds or something like that. So with patients, people come in, I've had a lot of shoulder people recently. So ask them all the questions. What's bothering you? What is it keeping you from doing? What are your limitations? And then I say, hey, what are your goals for therapy? What do you want to see accomplished by the end of everything? Most of the time it's, I want more mobility. I want to be able to move my shoulder above my head without pain. I want to be able to do this specific movement better. So I take that as like, that's our long-term goal. That's the thing that we're trying to get to. And then what I do is I develop smaller goals for them along the way. So by 2 weeks, I want to see this person's perceived pain in this specific motor pattern to be decreased by this amount. And if I see that, it's like, okay, cool. We're hitting those small marks and we're kind of moving the ball forward from there. So it's all about what can we make attainable for that person based on their skill levels too. So maybe pull-ups is another one for a lot of athletes. Like, I want to get my first pull-up. Okay, cool. So what do we need to get you to be able to do first before we move on to the next thing? You probably listened to the episode. Was it one of Ben's episodes where he talked about the guy that did the trek across Antarctica? And I don't know how long it was, but he got there. He pulled a 300-pound sled behind him all the way across the continent. When he got there, he could only move it like a couple feet at a time, and he got super discouraged. So he called his wife, and he was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't have what it takes. And she's like, well, how far until the next marker? And he's like, half mile. And she's like, just get there. Just get there first and call me again when you do. 30 minutes later, he gets to the half mile marker. He calls her, and she's like, where's the next one? And he's like, half mile down. So she said, go to the next one and then call me. So it's taking those smaller steps, and then eventually you find yourself, wow, in 10 hours I've traveled 7 miles, all that kind of stuff. So those sorts of ideas is that's how we kind of need to teach our athletes and our patients and people to think, I just need to go from here to here first, and that's all that matters. Yeah. And that'll help me get down the line.
Isn't it unique that actually someone who, for example, let's just really make this easy on us, but it could get more complex. One person who wants to lose weight, that's their goal. The other person says, I want to get pull-ups. That's my goal. Both people are overweight. Both people don't have pull-ups. Isn't it funny how we can take them through the same journey, and that the one who wanted to lose weight ends up getting pull-ups because they lost weight, and the one who wanted to get pull-ups ends up losing a bunch of weight so they can get pull-ups? Yeah. So it's very, very fascinating to me. Something that, it's not that I like to manipulate people's goals, but I would like to say that like I'm such a deep thinker that yes, in a way I try to take my experience and maybe to a fault assume what is best for them. Because again, if I can tell they've skipped 20,000 steps, then I mean, it is honestly my responsibility to try to help them either get them on a better path to make it quicker, sooner, shorter, or just better help them understand like, hey, I love this big goal, but I think you're going to be surprised that if we can take this path, although this still might be your goal in the end, you're going to be a much happier person by doing this. Because for me, let's just take the person who wants to get pull-ups. Okay. On the way, let's say this takes a year. On the way, we help this person lose weight. Well, cool. That wasn't their original goal, but I'm sure that's going to make them feel very happy. By losing weight, it allows that person to feel more confident. The confidence allows them to be more outgoing or more outspoken in their relationships. Their relationships, then in turn, they find the love of their life, and they get married, and then they have a child, and at 300 some pounds, they thought they'd never be able to have children. All the while, this opens up the opportunity for them to be more forthcoming and foregoing in their job, which then gets them a promotion. You know what I mean? Like a year, and all of a sudden in a year, we get to write on the chalkboard, I got my first pull-up. Wow. Why didn't we write down all the other pull-up's not even a big thing anymore. A pull-up, I'm sorry for anyone out there who it's not a big deal. Yeah. If that's the stuff that we can get accomplished, we have so many other things in your life that we can unpack and unravel and make better to get that one pull-up.
Because the people that we work with are not just pull-up machines. They're not just people who are going through pain. They've got other areas of their lives that are important and that matter to them. And you're exactly right. Getting somebody their first pull-up, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes along with that they might not even see, and then realize later on down the road, like, wow, my life is so much different because I just wanted to get my first pull-up.
A good coach, like let's say deep down as a coach, I am 99.99999% positive I'm never going to get this person their pull up. Even in 40 years, it'll never happen. You can fill in the blank as to why, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, some people, it's like, bless their heart, they're never going to get a pull up. Well, what's the first thing as a coach you should be doing? What other things can I help them accomplish to where this is almost like a secondary thing or something that they're not going to get so discouraged about? And it goes back to what I just said. Maybe it is. Maybe it's really helping them feel better in the gym other ways so they feel better in their personal life, and then they forget about the pull-ups. Or it could be someone real simple. And again, it could go in the reverse order. Someone comes in, they're like, I really want to get pull-ups. And I'm thinking, I could get you a bar muscle up before this class is over. I can already see that you have the potential to do so. Well, now I get to go in reverse order. I get to get them their pull-up, and now they're leaving thinking, God, what else could I do? And that's that confidence builder. That's that domino effect. It's like, man, I just did a pull-up, and I never thought I'd be able to do it. Maybe tomorrow I'll try a handstand push-up, or I'll try to, push myself at this Metcon or something like that. And that's the power of CrossFit, is you start to achieve things that you never thought were possible. And people are like, man, all you talk about is CrossFit. That's because CrossFit has helped me this is cheating, but I wasn't always a CrossFit coach or owner. I did CrossFit and I worked at other things. But for example, some people know this, I was an IT security analyst for the Department of Revenue. Had never done IT before. I was very fresh at it. It was only because of the military. I knew nothing what I was doing. But somehow I got through over a year of BSing my way through and never doing anything wrong. And the point is that I had done CrossFit long enough that it gave me the confidence to every single day I sat down, even though it wasn't a great feeling to be like, wow, I'm so inadequate at my job, or, oh man, I really don't know what I'm doing. But instead, every day I took it as a challenge to be like, hey, you did this. You can figure this out today. And I did. And the great thing is I got to quit that job. I chose to. I didn't get fired. I didn't get let go because I wasn't good enough at it. I got through the year that I was there. We moved here. I changed my profession. And that was, Becky and I, we were talking yesterday. I think we each saw Bran posted something on our story and I loved it. I'm not even going to go through it all. I'm just going to go through the last line. You need to start being a fan of your life. You need to start being a fan of your story. Don't think like, this is my story. No, be a fan of it. Man, I never thought I'd do IT security. And I'm telling you right now, it's like a 2% pass rate to get your Security Plus. It's a $50,000 certification. To never have done that and then actually go through my military, and I had to do it in a 2-week expedited process and pass. You don't think that I'm a fan of myself? I'm not bragging. It's a huge thing. And funny enough, I don't do that anymore. I'll never do security ever again for IT. And I'm probably never going to go back into the military. But man, it's a part of my life that I'm like, man, what a cool story. I'm a fan of that. Yeah. And it's just like the way that we put people on a pedestal sometimes and be like, man, I wish that was my story. Quit thinking about that and go make your story, man, and be a fan of it. You don't have to do it in a braggy, brash way. Like, just be a fan of what your life. So it was so cool. Becky and I, we just got to talk about our lives kind of from almost meeting one another to now. And it was just, in a way, it was kind of like a humble brag to one another. And it's just like, man, I've done so much in my life. I've been a part of so many minority related things that it's like 10% of the people in the world can say they've done this, let alone less than 1% of people in the world can say they've done the combination of the things that I've done. That's so cool. And I hope that you can say the same thing about your life. I'm not telling you, look at me and say, woo. I'm saying, look at me and now forget about me and go do that for yourself. Go think about yourself. And I'm telling you, like, I didn't even think I was going to share that story, but how motivated I am now. I am so motivated by myself just because I reflected over the last 15 years of my life and been like, good job, dude. That's so cool. So
that's an important lesson, because I struggle with that too. Like, and I'm pretty sure lots of people out there struggle with the same thing. But like looking on your own life, and it's really easy to just be like what's special, what's different. Like, it's easy to be negative and be down on yourself. So it takes a lot of practice to just be like, I do some cool stuff. Like, I live an actually pretty good life. And I think that can translate over into training or recovery or anything that we want to try to help people with. If they have that negative mindset about themselves, probably one of the more important things that we can do in helping to shift motivation and get people to set realistic goals for themselves is to get them out of that negative mindset and to start thinking more positively about what they can do and what they're capable of doing now that can help them move forward in the future. So on negativity, it's sort of like, what strategies can we teach people to be like, okay, you have this negative thought about something. What's your go-to for flipping that and being like, it's the opposite sort of thing. And it's difficult sometimes. It's all individually based on, knowing your athlete. We talked about that this morning. Know your athlete. What is it that motivates them or gets them tick, or like what doesn't work? Like I'm 100% of the time never going to encourage you in the middle of a workout because I know that doesn't work for you. That's not what you need. That's not what you want. Right. So that's not your trigger. That's not the thing that's going to build you up. But if I want to make you better at something, it may be after the workout or in a deeper discussion later on about like strategy or this and that, giving you ideas on like how you probably could have improved in certain areas. Most of the time you might just figure it out on your own just by talking to someone, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I can't remember what the method's called because I'm not a psychology major, but I know I've read it before. And the first thing, it's almost like waking up every day. And this is just the first idea that you should have. If you have a negative thought, all you do is literally think about the opposite. That's literally what you think about. So for example, someone who doesn't want to go to the 5:30 a.m., they wake up and they're like, ugh, I'm tired. I don't want to go to this class. What's the thing they should do? Oh, well, that's crazy. No, I would think the opposite. I'd be like, well, what do I get to do this evening? I don't have to come back and work out. I have the whole evening to myself. Same thing for evening people. When they're like, oh man, I'm tired from work. Yeah, but didn't you get to sleep in till 6:30? Didn't you get to sleep in? Or you could, instead you could have had to go to the morning class. Oh, that's a good point. I'm glad I get to work out at 5:30 p.m. I'm glad I get to work out at 6:30 p.m.
Yeah.
You immediately switch it. So you just literally think about the exact thing that's bugging you. And you think about, well, the opposite of this would be this. And the crazy thing is guess what? You have to weigh one or the other. So maybe you are doing the thing that's upsetting you. And if you can just look at like, well, I could be doing this instead. Maybe you're like, actually, that is what I want to be doing instead.
Yeah.
Maybe that 6:30 a.m. person is like, you're right. I don't like getting up this early. I am going to start going to 6:30 p.m. And it might not be a perfect scenario, but the point is like almost like what we tell each other, get 1% better every day. Hey, if something is a 2 out of 10, can we make it a 3 out of 10? It doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10. I don't know why we as people think that everything in our life needs to be a 10 out of 10. You're never going to get there. But if something sucks so bad, just make it suck a little bit less. Yeah. Like that's so simple. It's so simple. Like think of your 10 general physical skills. If you're an 8 out of 10 on everything and you're a 2 out of 10 on something, whatever the average that is that comes out to be 7.7, if you make that 2 or 3, your average now is a 7.8. You're that much more valuable. You're that much more fitter, stuff like that. So it's things to keep in mind. Move the needle just a little bit. That's what motivation is. Just that little thing. It's like, look at our relationships, like making motivational or goals in CrossFit or in your physical health, we'll just put it that way, is no different than a marriage. It's no different than your relationships. Things are different, right? Like people can have different motivating factors and different goals inside of CrossFit. Just like I probably need to have different goals for my wife that I would have for you and I. I can't use the same goals. It goes back to the customization of if somebody comes in and be like, hey, can you tell me a little bit about CrossFit? I might ask a different question back, or I might say a different thing to each person based on that, what I can already tell or what I can decipher or what I already know about that individual. Like I'm not going to go into every relationship the exact same way. And I'm not going to set the same goals for every relationship. But also by not setting goals for each relationship, the motivation, right, isn't there. So that's why marriages, we're at the highest divorce rate we've ever been. Like it's because you get so complacent and people don't set goals in their marriage. Like when you go and court somebody or date somebody, what are you trying to do? It's like a job interview. You're going to go above and beyond and you're going to do things that you don't normally do just to impress that person. And then as soon as you get married or you're committed to that person, you stop.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You should get better.
Yeah.
Like that's what I told Becky. Like if we ever write a book someday, man, we've got some good stuff, but it's hard. And it doesn't just, we're married, so it's easy. No, actually it probably gets harder. And if you're going to step back or stop while it gets harder, you're not going to be in a marriage for very long.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the gym. When I first started CrossFit at 25, 24, I can't remember now, like my goals were very different, and now that I'm 32, it's so funny. My goals are less. I actually have less goals, but I'm still fitter than I ever was when I was 25. You also get smarter. You understand your goal. You understand what actually drives you more. You might think to yourself, this motivates me. And you might think that for a long time. And then all of a sudden you have an epiphany and you're like, that doesn't motivate me at all. Yeah. Like, that's so stupid. So like, I mean, I went from, I'll admit, I was one of those people. I never had the goal to go to the games. I'm too realistic for that. But I did think like I could make it to regionals back when regionals was a thing. And for years, that quote unquote motivated me, and it got me really, really fit. But you know what else it got? It got me poor training methods, not listening to my body enough, and these little aches and pains that started to accrue set me back. Like I was training harder 4 years ago than I'm training now, but now I know that that's not my goal. And so therefore the intensity is different. The volume's different. What should I say? The movements that I do, for example, like back then I'm like, okay, well, this is my biggest weakness. I need to do it 3 to 4 times a week. Well, that got overuse injuries. My back squat was too low, so I back squatted a ton. That started to cause hip and back pain, stuff like that. Now I have a more well-rounded fitness because I'm not fixated on one single thing. I am fixated on just like, hey, I need to go in and I need to make sure my intensity is as high as possible. And what do you know? CrossFit works because I'm fitter at 32 than I was at 28 or 29, and I do less things than I used to do back then and still getting fitter because it's just smart. And, we could go down that goal too, or that route too, smart goals, right? Goals. So, and we can if you want to, but the point is like, I found that my motivation was wrong. And just like you said, it was misplaced. And the goals that I made, I didn't make a correct way to get there. I saw the big picture and I didn't see the small little steps that it really takes to get there. And the sport was so young. It's evolving. Like someone who comes into CrossFit now, you can learn so much more and probably be smarter than someone when I came in. I mean, CrossFit was only 6 years old, 5 years old. That's not very long. Yeah. And I mean, back then, all you were told is, volume, no rest days.
Yeah.
And I mean, to the detriment, like that's not smart. That's not good. But now we have so many smart minds who have come in, and they've adapted and they've come up with new ways of training. It's like CrossFit's great, but it can grow too. And it doesn't mean it's going to change like, we're not going to ever change the definition. But there's a lot of things where we've had specialists come in now and we're growing in the right direction, and we are keeping people safer and healthier longer the way that it was meant and intended to be.
Yeah. The final piece to that is the idea of where the misplaced motivation lies. Then you start to see where people start cutting corners to get to their goal faster, but not necessarily doing it the right way. And I think that can happen in already healthy people who just want to be better athletes, and it can happen in people who just desperately want to lose weight. They start finding what are the quick things that I can do to get to where I want to go. So maybe if it's for an athlete who has terrible movement form, but they're like, I can lift the weight, like I have the capability to lift the weight, so I'm just going to keep pushing faster and faster till I get there so that I can lift the same as the other people that I train with. But your movement pattern is so trash that eventually, if you don't pay attention to taking the proper steps to move yourself in the right direction, you're going to hurt yourself, and then you're going to be set back, and it's going to take you even longer. So getting people to recognize those things.
Another one is supplements and gear.
Yeah.
That's like, it seems like a small thing, but people are like, well, if I take this supplement, it'll make, and I'm not talking steroids. I'm not even going there. I'm just talking like you rely on substances to be your reason to get better,
Yeah.
like that's almost downplaying your ability. Like
Yeah.
you need to have more confidence in yourself that you're like, I don't need to take these things to get stronger.
If I drink these shakes, it'll help me lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks. It's
And it's actually not back to your poor form, but it can be related to that. But it's like, oh, well, I can't lift this weight when I don't have a belt on, so I'm going to always put a belt on. You're self-reliant on that now, you know? That's actually the biggest thing that I've changed. Of all the small pieces that a lot of people don't know about, I very rarely ever wear a belt anymore. And I'm not even talking 85 and 90% only. Sometimes I don't wear a belt at 85 and 90.
No.
Because I want to be able to breathe, control my breathing, control my center of mass, you know, and be able to actually build a core that's strong enough to do those things. You know, it's a funny thing I heard on a podcast long ago, but you know, that real thing happens in the world. You don't have time to go put your belt on.
Yeah.
Like go do it.
Yeah.
Go make it happen.
Well, that's exactly why I don't back squat with lifters on. I only front squat with lifters on because I'm aware of like the mechanics of how your shin should travel over your foot and how your knees and hips relate to each other in a back-loaded position versus a front-loaded position. So, and the same thing with the belt. I don't do belt until I get like really, really heavy because I want to have a strong pelvic floor. I want to keep my core strong. I want to control those things. Because if I need to squat down with something on my back in the real world, I'm not going to have my lifters there with me. Technical movements like snatches and clean and jerks, those things definitely put the lifters on. Yeah, it's for performance. But if I can stay as natural as possible with my movement patterns, I know that's going to progress me to being able to manipulate my environment to fit my needs and not necessarily have to be within the right conditions. I don't have my knee sleeves with me all day long. I don't have a belt with me all day long. All those sorts of things. So the big theme here is if you have goals for yourself, you need to find a way to break those down into smaller, more attainable goals that you can feel successful with as you move forward, and try to find strategies to get yourself out of negative thinking and more towards positive and progressive thinking. And that's what's going to help you get to where you want to be in the long run.
I agree. I think that's a great stopping point. That's a good one.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. Please make sure you head on over to LRX Apparel. Give them some love for us. Use code LIVEPRESCRIBE to get 15% off your order. And then we will catch you guys in the next one.